Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Bourseey Leadership Talks. I'm Martin Roinsky, co-founder and CEO of Bourseey, and it's great to have you join us, whether you're tuning in to learn more about executive leadership, boardroom impact, or the evolving dynamics of entrepreneurship. Today, I'm thrilled to be speaking with someone who truly lives at the intersection of business growth and strategic exits. Joe Carter is an entrepreneur, exit strategist, and advisor who helps business owners 3 times their EBITDA multiples, often in just 6 months. Joe's journey is anything but ordinary, from launching an electronics repair shop and scaling it to 12 locations to selling multiple companies for impressive multiples, including a 10x exit to private equity. Joe now empowers other business owners to avoid costly mistakes and build businesses that buyers actually want to acquire. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martin. I'm excited to be here. I've been looking forward to joining this podcast for a while. I can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Well, heck, let's get started. Let's start at the beginning. Take us back to your first business. What inspired you to open that electronics repair shop, and what were some early lessons you learned?
Well, truthfully, I was burnt out from corporate. I had spent years climbing the corporate ladder and had some senior leadership roles at companies like Best Buy, Radio Shack, Target, but I was ultimately craving something for my own. Then a friend called. He was from Cleveland, but his father lived in the Dallas area and wanted to kind of help him start his first business. Wanted to open an electronics repair shop, but he didn't know the market and he didn't know tech, but I did. So we partnered together, opened up our first UBIF franchise. But truthfully, what really pulled me in was not just the fact it was an opportunity to be an entrepreneur, it was the challenge. Being able to build a team, manage a P&L, create systems from scratch. It felt like everything just aligned. But here's what I really didn't realize. That first business looked successful on paper. You mentioned it. We got it to 12 retail locations. We also had 10 vans, but it couldn't run without me. I was still in the middle of everything and had to make every decision. So I learned the hard way that if your business can't run without you, you don't own a business. You own a job. And
Business owns you.
8 or 9 outcomes. They eventually, we did exit that business, thankfully, but during the due diligence was an extremely humbling experience, and it changed how I built everything that came thereafter.
That's awesome. Besides learning that the business owns you through all the tough lessons, um, what did that deal teach you a lot about what buyers look for? Can you share a bit about what you wish you'd known going into the first exit?
Yeah, definitely. I wish I understood how exit value was really built. We had some strong systems, specifically our technician training program, which was eventually adopted by the franchisor Shurion. So that was a huge win. But we made some critical mistakes along the way. We started our exit prep about 4 months before we sold. Our organizational chart was still evolving. The inventory was being tracked, but it was scattered across numerous locations. Financials were clean enough for a CPA, but they weren't investor grade. And all those gaps cost us because, truthfully, this is what it boils down to. Buyers, whether it's private equity or an individual, it kind of doesn't matter. Buyers don't pay for potential, they pay for proof. And that proof is built long before you show up at the deal table. It's through clean operations, transferable leadership, a business that runs like clockwork. Had we started those earlier, our multiplier could have been significantly higher. And we left a lot of money on the table, millions of dollars, to be honest with you. But that lesson reshaped everything that I did from that point forward.
Well, then great. Let's fast forward to your second business. You applied everything that you learned and ended up selling for 10x EBITDA. What changed in your strategy? Was it everything you just said? Anything else you figured out along the way?
Yeah, definitely. Everything changed, to be honest with you, specifically my mindset. This time, I didn't want to build a business to run. I wanted to build a business that someone else would want to buy. Even though it was a completely different industry, landscaping instead of electronics repair, I designed it from day one with the end in mind. And I focused on 3 questions. I asked it every single time we had to make any decision. Can it run without me? Is the revenue predictable? And are the systems scalable? If any of those were no, we didn't do it. That approach led us to recurring revenue, a leadership team that didn't need me, clean, investor-ready metrics. And we tracked more than just profitability. We dialed in on CAC, LTV, churn, gross margin per unit. It wasn't about the product. It was about creating a transferable asset. And that experience opened my eyes, not just to what creates enterprise value, but how many founders never get there because no one shows them the roadmap. That's what led me to start the Twinflame Group and also partner with the franchise consulting company, because I want to help people do exactly that. Either find the right franchise or by scaling their existing business into a franchise model that they can grow, replicate, and eventually exit.
That's awesome. Well, electronic store to you said landscaping, that's a huge leap and change and definitely a moment of pivot. What would you say are the top 3 differences between a business that sells at 3x versus 10x?
That's an amazing question. After my second exit, I had the opportunity to work for a private equity firm. And that gave me a rare seat at the table because I got to evaluate over 400 businesses over the next couple of years, not as an operator or an entrepreneur like I was previously, but as a buyer. And I'll tell you, after you see that many deals, the difference between 3x and 10x becomes crystal clear. But I'll simplify it. 3x, the business needs you. 10x, the business works without you. That's it. Everything else is details. Buyers pay premiums for really 3 things. Profitability, not just having healthy margins, but consistent industry-beating growth. Predictability, having recurring, diversified revenue that's not tied to a handful of clients or one rock star salesperson. And finally, scalability, having systems over personalities. A business that runs like a machine, not one that's held together by duct tape or on a founder's hustle. So here's what most people miss. Buyers don't pay for potential, they pay for proof. And that proof looks like clean financials, repeatable processes, and a leadership team that can execute even if the owner is out of the room.
Wow, awesome. And I love your 4 MOs framework: goals, milestones, actions, and accountability. Walk us through how that works and why it's so effective for exit planning.
Well, the 4 MOs, I'm a crime buff, so if you watch any crime dramas, MO is generally used as like an acronym to really just say method of operation. But it came from a simple moment and one that completely changed everything thereafter. One day I had a very long and stressful day at work, and I decided to stop at a park on the way home and have dinner just out in the nature and calm down, basically. On the other side of the park was a group of kids playing basketball. No scoreboard, no refs, just like half court and sneakers squeaking in the concrete. They were far enough away I couldn't hear anything they were saying, but I was close enough I could watch the action. And yet I could tell which kids were keeping score. You could feel it. There's an urgency, there's communication, the way they defended, the way they celebrated, it all changed. Some of them were playing, the other ones were competing. And that's when it hit me. People play differently when they're keeping score. I want to say that again, if I may, but emphasize a specific word. People play differently when they are keeping score. And that's what the 4 MOs are all about. Bring the same energy and clarity to your business. Have goals to tell you where you're going. Have milestones to tell you when you're going to get there. Have some actions to know who needs to do what. And accountability to know when it's going to happen. It's very simple, but it's also powerful. I've seen it myself in multiple businesses. I've helped hundreds of clients do the same, and I've seen it on the back end as well from a PA perspective. Without that structure, people drift. They confuse activity with progress. But when you have a visible scorecard, something that everybody can see and feel, that's when alignment kicks in, and it transforms a team of doers into a team of drivers. You have a team like that, you're ready to exit for a very high multiplier.
That's awesome. I love that example you used for basketball. I'm a soccer coach. Well, not anymore, but when my kids were young, and before my daughter and my son, before they moved to comp soccer, it was all about rec soccer. So, quote unquote, everybody wins, right? Nobody's keeping score. Everybody gets a blue ribbon at the end of the season. Thanks for participation. But I'll tell you, my team, we trained to win, and they knew it. And there was always one or two kids that probably driven by their parents didn't really care. And you can see it, like you said, you can see it how they play. But the rest of the kids, every time, they came off the field or at halftime, what's the score? What do we got to do to win? So yeah, it's and they're the ones that hassled and kept the score and played like they wanted to win, not just for the blue ribbon. They wanted a trophy.
Love it.
So a lot of founders think scaling revenue automatically means increasing value. I mean, common sense, right? But you've said that's a myth. Why is that?
So it's a myth because growth does not always equal value. I've literally seen $10 million businesses that sell less than $2 million ones. Why? Because they were chaotic. They had high churn, they had no systems, and they were completely dependent on the founder. On paper, because they had great sales, they looked impressive, but you take up the hood and it's a total mess. Buyers are not dazzled by complexity or high sales. They are drawn to clarity, predictability, and control. And that's where our scope of execution comes in. We help our founders shift from making money to actually building value. And we do that through really 7 levers. Financial modeling, so you have clean investor ready numbers. Strategic planning, so your vision is aligned with execution. Operational systems, so you have repeatable workflows at scale. Sales and customer optimization, so that you maximize your LTV and minimize your churn. Marketing and CRM, so you have a consistent pipeline with brand clarity. Market diversification, so you reduce dependency and reduce risk. People development, so that you build a team that thrives beyond the founder. Because ultimately, here's the truth. Value doesn't scale with revenue. It scales with systems, sustainability, and buyer confidence. And that's the difference between building a business and building a business that someone wants to actually buy.
And your strategic growth blueprint offers founders a real world valuation, not just some hype. What does that process look like, and what do most business owners find surprising?
Well, most business owners are flying blind when it comes to valuation. They have a number in their head, but they have no idea what their business is actually worth or what might be holding that number back. And that's where our strategic growth blueprint comes in. We start by clearly setting the founder's goals, personal, financial, and timeline of what they want to do and when. Then we reverse engineer the business to support that outcome. Yeah, we do a full valuation, but we also show the founders what buyers look for and what actually moves that multiplier. I'll give you an example. One of our recent clients, when we first started working with them, we created an evaluation for them and they were rated at a 3.4 EBITDA valuation. We modeled a path for them to get to 15.7 based on their industry. Same exact business, just a different level of readiness. And I'm super excited to say that within 90 days of implementing the blueprint, they've moved from 3.4 to 7.9. That's real numbers. The difference between 3.4 in this particular business is $6.74 million, and 15.7 will be 31.13. It's not about hustle, it's about structure. It's the same exact team, same exact product, just a different story told through systems, numbers, and buyer confidence. And to get to your second part of the question, what surprises most owners? It's not that they need to go chase around revenue. Small structural shifts like leadership delegation or recurring contracts can add millions of dollars to your enterprise value. So we don't just diagnose the problem, we quantify it and then give you a roadmap to unlock it.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a huge difference in the valuation. Awesome. Good for that client.
Yes.
One thing I really respect about your work is your mindset. The exit is a process, not an event. How can founders start thinking like buyers from day one?
Well, really, they just need to ask themselves one question. Would you buy your own business? That's the test. Could someone else step in tomorrow, run it without you, and get a return on their investment? If the answer is no, then it's not a business, it's a job with overhead. Thinking like a buyer means that you shift from an operator to an architect. It means designing something that runs without you, scales beyond you, and holds the value without your name on every single invoice. Here's the thing, even if you never sell, building like through a buyer's lens makes the business stronger. It creates margin, clarity, optionality. Because whether you exit in 5 years or 50, the goal is the same. Build something that someone else would want to own, even if that someone else stays to be you.
So let me ask you same question, but in this question I asked you from day one. What about somebody that's been years into their business? Let's call it a mess. They're not happy with it. They're working their butt off like you were in your first one. The business feels like it's dependent on them. Now they're thinking about selling. What do they do?
Well, one of the most common mistakes that there are in exit prep is just waiting too long. Most founders treat exit prep like something you scramble for in the final year, like cramming for a final exam in college or something. But exit value isn't created in the last 12 months. It's built quietly over the years of intentional decisions. Clean books, strong leadership, transferable systems, all those things do not show up overnight. But when founders delay that, the buyers will notice. And every risk that isn't addressed, it gets priced in. So here's the rule. If you want a premium exit, start preparing long before you ever even plan to sell.
Awesome. Great advice. So, Joe, before I get into some rapid fire questions, I'm curious, before you said you worked in corporate, before you opened up the electronic shop, before all of that, who was Joe Carter as a kid and what led him to where he's at today? Is there a moment? Is there multiple moments? Mom, dad, like what led you down the path?
I come from a very strong family that's it's heavily faith driven. So I definitely always fall back on my faith. And my wife is my twin flame, which is why our company is called the Twinflame Group. She quite literally is my mirror soul. She is the person that keeps me upright and does all the stuff behind the scenes. And maybe doesn't get as enough credit as what she really should deserve. So family is absolutely something that is ingrained in me. But in terms of going back to youth and what maybe shaped me into this, I also did martial arts for many, many years, and I was a national champion on several occasions. And it's just that work ethic and commitment towards achieving something for yourself, but also taking care of those around you, was something that to this day is absolutely ingrained within me.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to know. I did some martial arts too. I think it's an amazing thing to stick with and definitely commitment. So pretty good. Okay, rapid fire questions. Most common mistake founders make during exit prep.
Well, like I mentioned, just waiting too long. The sooner you can start, the better. I mean, in terms of exit prep, the best time to start is like 3 years ago. But the second best time to start is today. The sooner you can start creating the end in mind, the better off you're going to be, so that you are making intentional decisions every single day with the mindset of, would I buy this business if I was on the other side? If you can't confidently say yes, then you need to change something. And the sooner you figure that out and make those changes, the better off you're going to be, because it's a lot easier to show up at the deal table knowing you have the structure already in place and you're going to demand a high multiplier than have to scramble and make it look pretty. Because truthfully, anyone that's going to go through due diligence knows if you just did a paint job than if you actually rebuilt the car.
That's funny. I'll get back to that. Favorite book that shaped your business mindset?
That's a good one. Built to Sell by John Warlow, hands down. That book completely shifted how I thought about operations, systems, most importantly, founder independence. And it made me realize that the business built around you is not a business, it's a liability. And in the book, he doesn't just talk theory. He lays out a playbook for making your company scalable, sellable, and sustainable. So that book turned me from an operator to an architect. And it's one that I recommend to every single founder that I work with.
Awesome. What I was going to say earlier is your answer to you should have been thinking about it 3 years ago and doing something about it. When people ask us, companies that come to us looking for advisors and board members, when is it a good time I should start looking? That's our answer too. about 3 years ago. If you're asking now, it's too late.
Too late.
Start now.
Yes, sir.
um, if you weren't in exits and growth, what would you be doing?
Honestly, it probably would be two things. First, I'd be teaching strategy at the college level, not like theoretical or anything, like actual application, because I love giving back to the youth. And I want to help that next generation of entrepreneurs think bigger, build smarter, and not have to go through the painful experiences that I did. And the second one is I'd be off grid. I'd be running a wilderness retreat in the woods for founders who need to unplug, reset, and reconnect to their vision, because I've been there multiple times where you just get overwhelmed in the minutia of whatever it takes to run your business, and you forget why you started to begin with. And if you can just kind of take a step back, a lot of times your best breakthroughs will come when you step away from the noise.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. Clear minded, much better decision making.
Yes, sir.
Joe, what for any entrepreneur, any business owner that's maybe thinking about selling, thinking about an exit, or any entrepreneur that's now starting and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I heard all this. How do they connect with Joe?
Feel free to visit our website. It's twinflametx.com. It showcases all the different services that we provide. We also provide free consultations or discovery calls. So depending on if you're looking to get into entrepreneurship, we will showcase a variety of different options to you on many different types of budgets and educational and background levels. Or if you already have a business and you're trying to figure out how to scale it and make it a legacy, not just a business, we will give you a free consultation on that as well.
Awesome. Joe, this has been a masterclass in strategic exit planning. I appreciate how real and tactical you've been. It's something every founder needs to hear. And for those tuning in, if you're building a business with the goal of someday exiting or even just creating more freedom in your operations, Joe's insights are a game changer. We'll include links to his strategic growth blueprint and how you can connect with him directly in the show notes. Thanks again, Joe, for being here. And thank you all for listening to Leadership Talks. And until next time, keep leading boldly and building smart. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.